Hi guys, welcome to Geeks Wargaming. It's John here and I've got another army showcase for you. I did one not so long ago with the Black Templars in there and it got a lot of interest. I thought I'd do another one for my Imperial Guard army. So here we're going to talk a little bit about these guys. Astra, Miller, what now? Imperial Guard. Let's just call them Imperial Guard. So, my Imperial Guard journey, I guess, started actually, I was thinking back a little bit before I started Black Templars. So, after I built the Inquisition army, and you can hear a bit about that if you watch the Black Templar army showcase. I'm not going to repeat too much of that, but at some point before I started that army, I started off my Imperial Guard army, and it was really all thanks to this book, Imperial Armour, which was a absolute revelation for me because I was always been massively into tanks, and that book had in there an army list for an armoured tank company, which is basically an army potentially built up completely of Leman Russ, which is awesome because Imperial Guard wasn't so bothered about the troops, a bit squishy, not really that exciting, but the tanks, the tanks. I'm a massive treadhead, can you tell? And Imperial Armour brought in loads of varieties of different tanks. Some of the things we take for granted these days, actually, but have only relatively recently entered the mainstream codex. You know, stuff like the Leman Russ Annihilator with a plasma turret on there, things like the Vanquisher. They all came in the Imperial Armour book and they weren't seen before, and that was really cool because it had loads of variety and it gave me the opportunity to build an army out of the things I loved the most, tanks. So I went out and bought ultimately 12 tanks, 12 Leman Russ, and built an armoured company consisting of the command tank, a commissar tank, and then 3 squads of 3 effectively troop Leman Russes, so you know, more like stock Leman Russes that filled the troop slots of a conventional army. And it was loads of fun building those up, and I obviously at the same time was thinking about a backstory and thinking about a bit of fluff for the army to have a bit of a theme for it. At the time I was reading a bit of a short story, and I can't remember which one it was now, but it was talking about the Armenian armoured companies, and in particular they mentioned the first armoured division from that planet, and they had some battle honours from places I'd heard of before, like Golgotha, and I thought, hey, that's a really cool name, and I went with it. I also decided at the same time to go for the 4th company of that particular armoured division. The reason I did that is, looking through the Imperial Armour book, you'll see there are typical colour schemes for the 1st, 2nd and 3rd armoured companies of each regiment, each division. It does say in there that occasionally, if there's a lot of tanks available, they will build a 4th armoured company. So I decided to go for a 4th armoured company because it gave me an excuse to have an army that was basically, let's say, cobbled together at the last minute. So we've got tanks that have come from different fields of battle, different divisions, remnants of previous battles, and the odd survivors thrown together, which is why my army doesn't have a standard camouflage. It doesn't really have a standard colour scheme at all, because these tanks have just been lobbed together at the last minute. But the common theme with them all is that Narmenia is a desert world, so these guys are desert specialists. So when you look at the tanks, you'll see there's a lot of add-on things on there to help them survive in a desert world. I didn't quite go as far as building Talon, but you'll see little like air filters and jerry cans and barrels and stuff to help keep them survive in the desert. So, you know, I built a tank army out of these guys, and to be honest, it wasn't particularly successful on the battlefield even. I think this was 5th edition, so even then it wasn't particularly awesome, and a lot of the tanks were quite overpriced. But it did ultimately leave me with a very strong foundation for an proper Imperial Guard army. So, just before the most recent codex came out, so this would have been about 2009, I took the leap and actually turned it into a mainstream Imperial Guard army. So went out and bought loads of troops, but I wanted those to stay within the theme, so they're all mechanized. So you'll find they all have chimeras pretty much to run around in. And then with the new codex and being able to take tank commanders, I could ditch the company command squad, which is just 5 men. That's really, really weak. It's not a particularly great unit. It's almost like an Imperial Guard tax, but I can ditch that, and now I can have my HQ as being a tank, plenty of Lehman Russ, and then still have things like vets, still have things like armoured company platoons. So I've got my, I can't remember how many I've got now, many squads of guardsmen that can potentially all pile into the back of a Chimera and drive around the battlefield, which isn't the smartest way to play Guard, is not the most successful way of playing Guard, but I still love the idea of having this mechanised company. And I guess one of the biggest detractors is the fact that you've got a very easy way for your opponent to score first blood, because Chimeras are just easy to rip apart, and hey, there's a victory point, thank you very much. It's a bit of a downside, but hey, I still like playing it that way. The army's also diversified a little bit, so when the Vendetta came out, I custom built a Vendetta with bits of old Lehman Russ sponsons to make the las cannons. And more recently, I've acquired an Avenger in the air as well, and those two have great synergy because one's really good at strafing the ground and taking out troops, and the Vendetta is a really good tank hunter. So those two have a lot of synergy together. I've also built up some Hellhounds. I really like the Forge World Hellhounds because they look a bit different from the standard Games Workshop ones. And I've also got a Malcador Infernus because you can't beat massive flaming templates. So that gives you a bit of an idea about what I've been up to and how I've built the Guard up. And I'm pretty much done with Guard, but there's still a part of me that desperately wants to do things like Manticores. I really like the Bombard, which is like a Colossus type artillery battery on a Lehman Russ chassis, or maybe even just do things like basilisks or and medusas, that kind of thing. I'd like the idea of an artillery division, so maybe one day we'll invest in that. And if you guys have got experience in running those kind of squads, I'd be really interested to hear how those get on for you, and that might persuade me to go and buy some of those things. So that's enough backstory from me. Let's go and take a look at the models, shall we? And so here are the guys in all of their glory. I think I might have a bit of a problem. Let's start off with the infantry guys. So down here you got the senior officer, I've got a heavy weapons team, and the rest of the guys you need to build up a HQ squad. And then I've got regimental advisors, I've got a couple of priests, we've got a couple of commissars, and then we've got the platoon command squad, plasma gun embedded in there, and they've got a Chimera. And then over the back I've got a veteran squad. So if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you'll recognise these guys. 3 melt guns embedded in there. They do tend to come out to play quite a lot, and they've got a dedicated Chimera for their use. And then you've got these guys here, Kaskirin. Don't really exist anymore, I suppose. I don't use those guys very often actually. I've almost forgotten about the fact that I had them. But yeah, nice models. I like those guys. I have to think of something to do with those guys. And then basically it's just more and more of the same. We've got a proper old school Rogue Trader era Guard squad down there. And I know there's 11 men in there. There's a melt gun in there, and I've also got a heavy bolter in there from back in the days when guardsmen could carry a heavy bolter without being a heavy weapons team. So just a little bit of history there for you. And a slightly unusual Chimera, that one is the heavy bolter variant, the twin linked heavy bolter variant. And then we've got some of the more standard Chimeras. And my guard squads, they all tend to have a melt gun embedded in them just because of really generally face power armour. Although I have got over the back here these guys that used to be part of my Inquisition army, hence the colour scheme. These guys have a flamer in there and a grenade launcher as well for different options, and you can see they still have the Inquisition logo on the Chimera. So all the Chimeras are kind of touched up a little bit with various different details. This one's got a barrel attached to the side of it and sand channels. The army is really desert themed, so they have to kind of think about strapping all the add-ons that they might need to take with them along for the ride. And then of course you've got the main bulk of the army, which is, well, it's just tanks and tanks and tanks and tanks. So The Flamer division in the middle here, there's a Malcador Infernus, which is a model that I absolutely love. It's so 40k and ridiculous. I mean, massive Flamer on tracks. And also pretty brutal as well in game terms. It's pretty harsh to be on the receiving end of one of these things. And they've got the Hellhounds as well. It's got 2 Hellhounds. One of each of the 2 different patterns from Forge World. I just think those are way cooler than the plastic boxed versions that you can get. So they've got the tank strapped to the back of them, and they really stand out as being Hellhounds rather than a Chimera. And then we've got the big boy at the back. We've got the Baneblade. I'm so excited when I got this model. I'd sort of imagined getting a Forge World one for ages, and then it came out in plastic and it was affordable, and that was just awesome. This is actually the kind of the original one before there were different options. So now in the box you can build Stormlords and all sorts of different variants as well. But the classic Baneblade is, yeah, it's probably the best one anyway. It's awesome. And at the back as well, we've got an Atlas recovery tank and a Hydra flat gun as well, just to add a little bit of backup. And then in the air, we've got an Avenger. Again, if you're a fan of the channel, you'll know that this is out to play a lot. I do like the Avenger. It is a nasty flyer, and it's a cool looking model as well. Again, very distinctive. I've also got the Vendetta as well. I tend to bring this one out to play quite a lot, to act as a bit of a tank hunter. I have previously ran the Kaskiran in there as well and used those guys to drop out the back of them, but it's just not a good tactic really to drop that thing out of flying mode, so it doesn't really happen anymore. But yeah, it's still a very effective anti-tank weapon, that even in the kind of current meta where the points value's gone up. It was an absolute bargain before. It used to be dirt cheap. Anyway, so they're back to things with treads. This is my typical command squad, although I do mix it up occasionally and have different command tanks in the mix. These are both Vanquisher tanks, one of each pattern, so you'll notice there's slight variations with the size of the barrel, but Vanquishers are basically anti-tank hunters, and again they look a bit kind of comedy, really oversized barrels. And so the black one is a Commissar tank, and when I used to run this as an armoured company, then the Commissar tank had its own special rules and gave its own little leadership bubble out, and I still left it black. I think it looks cool. It's just something a bit different, a bit distinctive. And then on the second row we've got Forge World's Plasma Annihilator. We've got a stock Leman Russ there with heavy stubber. We've got another Plasma Annihilator equipped Leman Russ at the back there as well. And again, you can see the little details there. They've all got little attachments to make sure they've got all the things they need for extended operation to desert. So lots of liquids on these, and also they've got things like spades to dig themselves out if they get stuck in the sand. And then at the back we've also got an Annihilator pattern Leman Russ. Bit of a homebrew conversion, that one. Just took spare bits of Leman Russ and spare las cannons and made my own Annihilator. You can see that's got a toe chain on there. Got more barrels attached to the back of that Leman Russ in the centre there. Slightly different hull pattern on that one. I think it's got the glacial plate from one of the other variants of Leman Russ, the Mars pattern one, I think. And then we've got the Leman Russ Executioner with the auto cannons. That's pretty good at popping light vehicles and some of the more toughly armed troops. At the back as well we've got the Demolisher, again popular one on the channel. Plasma sponsons with some vents on the back to get rid of all that excess heat. Tank commanders popping out the top to have a little peek, see what's going on. In the middle there we've got a standard Leman Russ, but in a slightly distinctive colour scheme. I went to the Tank Museum in Bovington, which I highly recommend if you've never been, and I saw some of the tanks that were posted in Berlin during the time when that city was divided, and they had a unique camouflage pattern basically to blend into the other buildings. So I kind of copied that and went for a square sort of pattern of camouflage instead. It's just something a little bit different really, I suppose. And then at the back there, hidden in shadow, we've got the Punisher. That one is big favourite of mine as well. Chucking loads of dice down is always good fun. This is another bit of evidence here as well. I talked earlier on about the fact that the idea of the army is that really it was just thrown together at the last minute, and hence there's no standard camouflage. This one's actually intentionally got the wrong shade of blue for its company designation marking, so all the other ones have a lighter blue. That one's got a dark blue, and again, it's just that kind of intentional mismatch, just to give a bit of variety and a bit of a backstory to it as well. So there you go, there's all the tanks, plenty of them, and all the troops to go with them. So I hope you enjoyed taking a look around my Imperial Guard army, and maybe it's inspired you to build your own. Or if you guys have got any questions or any comments, then I'm always really happy to hear what you guys have got to say. So leave us a comment, and obviously don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can see these guys in a bat rep soon. Thanks for watching.